My name is Meana McLeod. I've lived in Aklavik my whole life, and I'm married to Dave. We've been married now for 28 years. I have 4 children and 5 grandchildren, and we all live here in Aklavik except for my daughter. She lives in Whitehorse right now. She's still going to school part-time, and she works full-time, so she'll be done with her undergraduate degree in June. So, yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about your daughter?
Okay. My youngest daughter, Davina, she plays hockey, and she's traveled all over Canada, and she's been into the States. We sent her down to Whitehorse when she got to grade 10 to, first of all, to get a better education so she didn't have to upgrade after high school. And also, we wanted to see if she could try out for hockey, because in Aklavik, there's not a whole lot of kids that play hockey, so she didn't have any real hockey games to play regularly. So she went down to Whitehorse, and she did her high schooling in Whitehorse. She also did a semester at Notre Dame in Saskatchewan. She did a semester at a hockey training institute in Ontario, and that's where she got the chance to drive over to Buffalo and to Elmira, New York, I think. So she's played hockey all over, and she's gone to the Arctic Winter Games. She's gone to NAHC. So she's been playing hockey since she was a little girl. And now she's back in Whitehorse. So she's been based in Whitehorse. So yeah, she works for a mining company that's based out of Whitehorse. And she plays hockey in their league. So she's liking it. My husband's played hockey since he was about 14, I think was the first time he tried hockey. And so he's been playing hockey all his life. And so my oldest son, David, he also plays hockey. Davina plays hockey, and my youngest son plays hockey. So hockey, I think, it's a great way to get out and keep active, and it keeps you busy, because sometimes December, when it's a little dark, and if you don't keep active and if you don't get out and do things, then it's easy to get lazy, or depression sets in, or loneliness and things like that. So we try to keep our kids busy. We also just recently started up badminton again. So my husband and I, along with my mom, Lorna, we have badminton every Wednesday evening. So we've had a good turnout some nights, and some nights it's, now that hockey started up, we don't get as much of the youth. But I think sports is very important to keep people active, keep people busy, young and old.
Yeah, it is. That badminton, how interesting. How did that come about?
Well, must be about 10, 15 years ago, there was a teacher and a principal. They started up badminton, and a couple of the other community members went, and they were really into it, so we went to try it out, and we went pretty regularly, and then it just kind of died out as the people left. Like, some people moved out of town, the teacher left, the principal left. And then just recently we thought, okay, let's start this up again. So between the three of us, my mom, Dave, and myself, we started putting up badminton every Wednesday. So it's been going really good.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I wanted to ask more questions about Davina. Talk about her life in the community. I know we're going to get an interview if she would give us one after this, but like growing up and sports, and I would imagine that she mentored some other players as well.
Yeah, when she does come home, she comes home quite often, especially during COVID. She was home for a while, which was really nice, because she hasn't been home since she was 14 for really long periods of time. So when she does come home, she goes out to minor hockey. And she's really trying to get the girls involved, because there's not a lot of girls that come out of the small communities. So she was trying to get them motivated and, get them interested in hockey. So she likes coaching, and she also did basketball camp, or not basketball, slow pitch camps and canoeing camps. So she also paddles. Yeah.
Oh, I want to talk about paddling. We're in Aklavik. We're right on the Mackenzie Delta. Would you share some of what she was doing with outdoor activity?
Yeah. So a few years ago, well, she's been paddling since she was a little girl, because my mother-in-law, Margot, she was a big, huge paddler, and same with my father-in-law. And a lot of them paddle, and they've raced for many, many years. And like anything else, it kind of like died out for a while. And so they started bringing that back. So she actually went to Naig for canoeing, and she got a gold medal with her partner, Caden, I think it was, the first gold medal for the NWT. Yeah, and then a few years ago, on Canada's 150th birthday, they had a Race the Peel, it was called, from McPherson. They raced 30 kilometers, and then they did the next day again. So she did a 2-day race with her grandmother, my mother-in-law. So they came in second or third. And so that was really something to see. We had paddlers, I forget how many teams, but it was a big, huge race. And we've talked about having something similar, because that brought a lot of people, you know, back into canoeing from the surrounding communities. It was really nice to see.
And even during COVID, and how like it felt like the winters were a little darker during COVID too, and then now that we're coming back out, I feel like we all know now, especially how important these gatherings are for all of us.
Oh yeah, for sure, because you can see that some of the events that were held virtually, we had some interest. And then coming back into the hall for an old time dance, there was not as much people, because people are used to staying home now. They're used to watching it on Facebook, or they're used to watching it live. So, but getting back out into the communities and being with other people, being with your extended family and, you know, other community members, I think that's really important, you know.
Meaningful. Aklavik, you want to talk a little bit about, for the unknowing viewer, like maybe the population of Aklavik, sort of what's the livelihood here? I know we're aware of there's trapping and hunting and stuff, and that maybe like to speak a little bit about that.
Well, for myself, my husband and I, we have our own heavy equipment company. So we make the ice road from Aklavik to Inuvik. We make the ice road halfway to McPherson. We maintain the airport. And for us, we try to employ a lot of the young men to keep them busy and to keep people working. But it's like, again, COVID really stopped a lot of the extra business and the extra, you know, the little side jobs. But now those are coming back, and it's good to see people working. It's good to see people out at activities and events, and caribou hunting is huge. And as soon as, you know, one person goes out and comes back with caribou, then everybody wants to go and get caribou for their family, for their friends, for their, you know, for the community when they do the community hunts.
You talked about the ice road, your company, your family company maintains that. That's a huge theme of survival for some of our communities, since especially Aklavik, you know, you can't put a all-weather highway here.
Yeah, it would be really hard. So when we do get the ice road, we try to get it in as quickly as possible before the Christmas holidays, because first of all, shopping, you can find more stuff in Inuvik or in Whitehorse than you can here in Aklavik. And then also for traveling for families, because a lot of people from Aklavik, we have families in Inuvik and McPherson and Tuck. So to get them to come in and drive, you know, it's a lot easier, and they can come, you know, at any time. There's not, compared to in the summertime or in the springtime when there's no boating, then you have to rely on the skeds, which is once or twice a day. And then you could be weathered in, or you could, you know, the flights could get canceled. So it's a lot easier to have the ice road. Yeah.
Still.
Well, when we don't have the ice road, like when it closes in April, a couple days later, the prices of everything goes up because they start flying it in. And you can't bring as much in on a plane as you can on a cube van. And a plane is more expensive than it is to drive it over. So the cost of living really goes up. And then we'll see those high costs again until the ice road opens. And then we'll also get a lot more variety of, you know, of the food and the snacks and fresh stuff compared to when there's a plane. Sometimes if we don't get a plane for 2 or 3 days, then there's no fresh fruits and no fresh vegetables and, you know, no yogurt and stuff like that. So you can tell when the planes come in And then people are telling everybody there's, they have fresh stuff at Stanton's. So and now with cell phones, you can just text your friends. You send out a group text and say there's fresh stuff, or the price of milk is now $55 a case. So the price, the road's going to close soon. Go and get your groceries. Well, in the summertime, we can go to Inuvik with a boat. So a lot of people boat. You'll probably see, 2 or 3 boats going every day. And again, they bring in their groceries, bring in their supplies. And then the hard time is when you can't boat and you can't truck. So that little piece of, that little few weeks, it's hard to rely on the stores that we have locally for food, because the prices are going to be higher. The selection isn't going to be as varied.
Yeah, and that's just our lives up here.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, those ice roads are survival links. Now with climate change, that's got everybody in a thinking ahead a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can tell us some things that you guys have noticed over the past few years.
Well, with the ice road, the earliest my husband has ever been to Inuvik with a truck is October 31st. And now, today, you're probably never going to see that again, because we have so warm falls that the ice takes a lot longer. Plus, the government has raised the limits that we need. So where we used to open the ice road December 1st or December 2nd, this year it was open on December 25th, which was really late, because we always like to have it open before Christmas. So that's part of, having a warmer fall, a warmer summer. And then some of the channels are getting shallower. So because of they're changing, the rivers are changing. So you're finding more sandbars, you're finding narrower channels, shallower channels, and it just makes for a harder ice road making.
Really? We had that heat dome in that atmospheric river last year. I think everybody felt that heat dome. That was 9 days above 30.
Yeah.
Even for wow. Mm. And then all the landslides that had happened.
Oh yeah, you can see them. When you're driving to Inuvik, you can see them, and they look wider. So the rivers are getting wider and shallower. So it's a lot harder to make ice roads.
Have you had that conversation with your husband about what that looks like well into the future?
A little bit, not too much, because we'll adapt. If we can't go by the smaller channels, then maybe we'll stick to the bigger channels down the road. But for now, it's still viable.
That's it's kind of like nerve-wracking to think that we've been doing this for 30 years and then it will change eventually. We will have to adapt.
Yeah. Well, last year the Mackenzie froze so rough we couldn't make it down that one little stretch. So the road actually went by a different route, and I don't know if that really had to do with climate change or just the way the river froze so rough, and the ice was piled up so high. There was just no way we were going to get through that. So then we picked an alternate route. Mm-hmm. Like we will go out to our spring camp on the Mackenzie. So we'll geese hunt. My husband and my son, my daughter, my in-laws, they'll all go hunting, and we'll work with that. And I haven't seen any changes with that springtime hunting, because we're still there. And the good thing with our cell phones, when we take pictures, we can look back at the years and say, we were here on May 1st, we were here on May 5th. And then after we're done out on the Mackenzie, then we go up towards the coast, or my husband goes up towards the coast. And so we'll do a lot of our harvesting for geese there. So, and I haven't really noticed, I haven't noticed a big change in the geese hunting anyways.
You did mention earlier education, I think, is really important too. You sent your daughter so that she was getting quality education. Mm-hmm. Do you feel comfortable in talking a little bit about that too?
Yeah, I was, my oldest daughter graduated from the school here in Aklavik, and then when she went on to Yukon College, she had to do upgrading. So and we kind of figured that's what would happen because that's the norm for the smaller communities. So when Davina got to grade 10, I asked her what she thought about going to school. And that was going to be so different than going to school in Aklavik. You know, she missed a lot of school because she was so far ahead. She didn't get homework. And so she wasn't really interested in school. So we sent her to Whitehorse. And I thought, okay, you're going to have to, you know, get up by yourself. You're going to have to make sure you're at school. You're going to have to make sure you do your homework. And I told her it's going to be a rough start because you probably didn't learn everything they learned in grade 9 that they already, you know, have done. And sure enough, the first month was really hard. She was playing catch up because a lot of the things that they did, they said, oh, you've learned this last year. And she didn't learn that last year because she went to school here and it was not the same. So she had really amazing teachers and a guidance counselor, and she had a lot of resources. And they knew where she was coming from. And then she also tried out for the hockey team. She played for the Whitehorse Mustangs. So she kept herself busy. She had a lot of catching up to do in school, but she was able to do it. And I remember leaving her there, and she was like, Mom, what if I'm not smart enough? What if I'm not good enough? And oh my goodness, I think I cried all the way driving home from Whitehorse. I cried right to Carmack's thinking, what am I doing? But now I'm glad we made that sacrifice for her. She's doing really well in her job. She's almost done her undergraduate degree. She's still playing hockey. She's coaching. And I wish we didn't have to send her away. And I wish we could have did that right out of Aklavik to go to a university down south, but you can't. I don't think we're ever going to be at that level, especially now after COVID. And not only were we behind in academics, we were behind in sports because we don't have a full team to play hockey with. We don't have a full team to play basketball with, you know. So going from Aklavik to Whitehorse, that was a big change. She also tried out for the basketball team, and in my house the kids would play basketball. It just about drove me nuts, but they had the basketball in the house and that's all you heard all day. And they would draw or not draw, they would take hockey tape and make squares up on the wall, and that would be their baskets. So she moved to Whitehorse and she thought, well, you know, I'm going to try basketball too. So she went out and she tried basketball. And her first game, she didn't know the rules. She didn't know taking a foul shot. She didn't know anything. And they thought she was like joking with them because she could play basketball, but she didn't know the rules. And it was really hard, but she caught on quick and she enjoyed it. So she's had a lot of different coaches over the years, hockey coaches, soccer. She's gone to Norway for soccer. She's played basketball. She's even played rugby. And just finding that sense of a team and making friends. And then she comes back home and she holds camps and she does, you know, she coaches minor hockey. And she's talking to these kids saying, you know, you can go and you can do whatever you want. You can be whatever you want. You don't have to just live here in Aklavik, but if you do, that's fine too. But if you want to go out there and, you know, you're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to study hard. But she talks to the kids and she talks to the youth, and she enjoys working with kids. Yeah.
One thing that was so important for me as a young person, and you know, I grew up in politics, was having someone to look up to. And you must be so proud of Davina because she's got to be a role model for all of these young people.
Yeah, she is, and I'm glad that she still comes home and she takes the time out because she goes to school pretty much year-round. She's going to school part-time, so she even goes to school in the summertime, and she has to say, okay, I can't come to, you know, Friday night appies because I'm going to be studying, or I have a class online. And with COVID, there was a lot of online classes, so she was always busy with school, and she still is. The one good thing about COVID was she came home, and she was home for months, and because we were all isolating, it was just mostly our family together. And, you know, she wasn't home for 4 years. So when she did come home, We had a really good time just spending time alone with our family, with each other, and she got really attached to her nieces and nephews, so it was really nice having her home. And now that things are opening back up, she's enjoying it because she can coach more kids. She can, like, she was even picking them up. If you don't have a ride, let me know and I'll pick you up. If you don't have equipment, let me know. We'll find you equipment. We want you to come out and play sports. So she was really, really interested in getting all the youth that were interested. Maybe they didn't have equipment or they didn't have a ride when it's like 40 below. She was out there picking them up, dressing them up if she had to, just to get them on the ice.
Your earrings are so gorgeous. You said that when you were
Oh, yeah. My earrings were made by my daughter, Carlin. She does shotgun shell earrings. And these are really special to me because my husband shot these shells when he was out geese hunting. And she goes and her and James, her husband, will pick them up and he'll grind them off and she'll make earrings out of them. And I think one good thing about COVID too was they, IRC and ACC, they gave out parky kits. They did draws for sewing machines and ice augers. And I think the programs that they had got a lot of people sewing, back into sewing, because you didn't see that a whole lot. So I was fortunate enough to get a parka kit. And I had a little bit of basic sewing knowledge from junior high, way back. I won't say when, but, and so I was fortunate enough to take some sewing classes just with some elders in the community, and myself, my sister-in-law, my daughter, my niece, we all get together and we'd sew. So we started sewing parkas and parky covers, and my daughter beads, and she makes earrings, and she makes shoes. So I'm just a sewing machine kind of person. I let the machine do the work for me.
Lovely. You make articles too.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about, like, maybe when you started and what was?
Well, the first time I made parkas, we had a project with two of the elders to make drum dancing parkies. So there was a group of about 6 of us, I think it was, and we made 40 drum dance parkies over, I think it took us 4 or 6 weeks. And that was my first time making a parka. And I learned a little bit about delta braid and, the basics of sewing a parka together. So I took that knowledge, and then we did another parka making class with another lady who came in from Inuvik. So all those little things, you learn little tips and tricks along the way and better ways of doing things. And so I find I don't have a lot of time to sew, but I find it relaxing where you can just sit and sew and take your time and try to be creative, because there's so many different ideas out there and so many beautiful parkas. The downside of it is I didn't learn it from my parents. My daughter makes earrings. She didn't learn that from me, but from community, elders and workshops, all those little things. Those are great to teach young people, because I think everybody has a talent, whether it's sewing or sports or leadership. Everybody has something that they're good at. And once you find what you're good at and what you enjoy doing, it doesn't even feel like work.
I love that. Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Meana.
I was just wondering.
I always leave her.
Well, yeah, I was just wondering on the subject of clothing, and I know it's maybe not something you've always done, but I find it very interesting, like how the clothing was used before the Northern Star for survival. I don't know if you have anything to talk about the stitching being waterproof or the kind of hides.
Or someone we can talk to that would be able to.
The only people probably would be Nellie or Annie B.
She's next after you.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, because they're traditional sewers.
Okay, cool.
They've been sewing since another person would have been Alice, but she's passed on because I wish I could have learned from Dave's granny or my grandmother, but life happens and you're just so busy you don't have time to sit and sew. And then when COVID stopped everything, you couldn't work, your kids couldn't go to school, so that's where you sat down and you learned how to sew. And I was telling my sister-in-law, I said, Alice would have been so proud of us if she could see us sewing these parkies. She said we wouldn't even be sewing. We would have just brought her our kits and said, you know, make a parkie for one of the kids. And she would have. And that's what we would have done because, you know, we don't have to sit there and sew. But now we do because nobody else is going to come and sew a parka for our kids or for a traveling parkie. So.
And so in a way it's going to live on now.
Yeah.
Just because, and I like the element of like what you mentioned. You said life. You couldn't learn from, you know, grandparents or your mother-in-law, or, but the community shares what they know. And maybe you can talk about sharing. It's such a huge part of like just who we are. Yeah.
So I've gone to sewing workshops, I've gone to sewing classes, and then even just drop-in sewing where you just bring your own sewing. And there you'll be sitting with a group of 5 or 6 ladies, and you know, of course you're going to go and sit and chat and see what they're working on and how they're doing this, and then you pick up a new skill or a new way of doing things and you share your ideas, and they tell you a better way to do it, or this way is quicker, or this way, you know. And it's always nice for them to share with us, because then we in turn we share with, you know, our friends and our relatives on the skills that we learn. You pass that on.